most of the people that lived on a res during that time didn't have running water. I can still remember going to the chow line first time and been involved with tribal gaming ever since it began. And I'd like to say, we were the first that ever put land into trusts in a metropolitan area.
We remember who we are through the smoke, through the sound. Our heartbeat carries on, stand strong. Voices rise from the earth to the sky. Neshanabe, Neshanabe, Bode Wadami, Neshanabe.
You want me to sing?
Yes. Can you tell us about yourself and who you are?
My Indian name is Opse, which means white hide. If you ever skin a deer, their skin is white. So that's where the term comes from. My grandfather and great-grandfather. I counted one time 82 grandchildren.
82.
Yep. The way we think and act, like my brother's kids are mine. Same way with, my kids are my brothers. So that's why 82 sounds so high. And like I said, I was raised and born in Blackwell, except for some time I spent as a GI and as the general manager in Milwaukee. Matter of fact, I retired as a CEO, GM, Potawatomi Bingo Casino in Milwaukee. And been involved with tribal gaming ever since it began. When we first began, it was in the old tribal building. We had bingo, and it was a elderly couple that I met in Walmart in Milwaukee. And he said, "Hey," he said, "I know you." I looked at him and probably a puzzled look on my face. He said, "We used to play bingo at your old tribal hall. Remember when it used to be so cold? When we used to open the doors in the summertime, all the mosquitoes would get in." It made me laugh. Yes. We used to help set up the tables, chairs. I remember those days. And compared to now, quite a leap. I went to school in Soperton, part of Wabino. It's called Lincoln School. And that's where all the kids on the bus went to. So like Freedom, Towns, and Lakewood. That's where they went to school. And they had another school downtown. It was Washington. And all the kids that lived in town, that's where they went. And we had high school. I remember a teacher, Mrs. Hardwick. That was her favorite saying, "Pick up your feet." If you It made loud noise when you were walking. And then I went to the 6th grade, and we went to Wabino High School,
Mhm.
7th and 8th grader.
So we were kind of looking through some of the articles, and it was brought up that before you were 17 years old, you didn't have running water.
It's
Can
true. Yeah. Well, most of the people that lived on a res during that time didn't have running water. We had outhouses. We had wood heat, which we used to remember carrying poles from the woods, the wood pile, and we'd saw it up and split it, and you'd have to haul it in. And we had a pump outside the house. I could still remember that one. Wash day, when all the ladies would get together with the big wash tubs, and I'd be hauling water. I don't know how many trips they'd heat it on the stove, and they'd wash the clothes. I used to dread them days when I was a young guy. I was 17 when I was working in the woods, getting logs. I was in my 12th year, but I was so far behind, I quit. So one time I was up at the courthouse downtown, and I was thinking to myself, I said, whichever recruiter comes in, that's where I'm going to go. Air Force recruiter came in, where I become a chairman.
So that was probably around 1960s.
Yeah,
And then,
59, around 59.
okay. So when you were talking about your logging experience, was that minimum wage $1.25? Is that correct?
No, I didn't get paid that way.
Oh, you didn't.
I got paid by the cord.
Oh,
How many trees were, you know, were brought in. But then there was other jobs that I had that paid $1.25. But when I first started working, it was 90 cents. 90
90
cents an
cents.
hour.
Wow.
I worked in the woods probably all the way up until I joined the service. When I was talking with the recruiter, he asked me, when do you want to go in? I told him after Christmas. On the 26th of December, I was riding on a bus going to Milwaukee to be processed.
The day after Christmas.
December 26th. We flew. And that's the first time I was ever on a plane. We flew from Milwaukee to Dallas, and from Dallas to San Antonio. It was about, I would say about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when we got there. I can still remember going through the chow line. First time. guys standing behind the serving line, great big grins on their face, because they knew what the heck we were, what was going to happen. But that first time I heard the name Chief, I went all through my service with the name Chief. Even the EI told me one time, hit it, Chief. He was laying on the ground, face first. We're going to the obstacle course. That's what he said. Hit it, Chief. Got up running and come in second place that time. It was a black guy from Detroit, little short guy. Well, we were about the same height. Weighed about 165 pounds when I went in. The thing about it, every once in a while, it kind of brings a smile to my face when I think of, everything that happened. Like I said in the beginning, I was in the 12th grade when I quit. Then when I joined the service, I went to school for another 9 months. Went to school in Auckland, and I went to Gunter. And, had a couple weeks in Illinois. And even when we got to be a permanent, when I went to my permanent station, we went to school. I think it was about 3 hours once a week. I smiled because we used to have the schooling was in the morgue.
In the morgue?
Yeah. A couple chairs in there. And that's where we held our classes.
Did you get any eerie feelings in there?
Well, there was a couple people in there one time when we were there. Like I said, I went to school and I became a hospital corpsman. I worked on all the wards when I went to Shelling Air Force Base in Kansas. That was my permanent station. Like I said, I went through all the wards, and the best ward I enjoyed the most was OB-GYN, because you had to know arithmetic, because you had to prepare a formula for all the newborn babies. Whenever they said, I had to learn math, good thing I did. And after I got out of service, I worked in Chicago, construction worker. I usually worked in cement, poured concrete. We built sidewalks, patios, and we used to put stucco on buildings. And the last place I worked was Ready Mix, where they put coloring in there, and they had guys, putting on walls. First would be gray, then red, and they'd put it on the walls, and they'd cut it. You had a straight blade where you held it up, and there was a cutter, cut it, up and down, so it looked like brick.
Oh.
That's what they call brick face. After that, I came back to the res, trying to settle down, and I was going to school, Nicolay, when I first became aware of chairmanship. Well, I graduated from Nicolay with a degree in auto mechanics. I school for 2 years, and then when I found out about the chairmanship, I really wasn't interested, but people kept on talking. Oh, well, I'll give it a try. And when I got the position, it was a mess. Tribe had most of their programs discontinued because he didn't have any financial policies. When I first started, I was wondering how the heck are we going to make payroll? It's a good thing at that time they were repaving this highway here, and they needed a place to put the asphalt plant. And that was where the dump is now. That's where they put the asphalt plant.
Oh.
So, and I asked them, would you guys be willing to pay up front? He said, yeah, that's the way we made payroll. First, I would say first 2 months. And then, like I said, most of the programs were cut. And I don't know, I just come out of nowhere. I said, heck, we got money. That's where we had our Indian money. So I talked to council at the time. Then we had a general council, and I asked if we could withdraw funds from there till we can get back on our feet.
Mm-hmm.
So they said it was okay, but I had to lobby. I'd go to Ashland, and I went to Minneapolis, knocking on the doors. Me and Dr. Barlow became good friends. He used to be the head man, a division that worked with tribes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it took about a month, maybe 2 months to get the money. And in the meantime, we hired a couple more people that were familiar with finances. One of them was Jim Devine. He was the one that helped us, set up all the policies. There was a couple others. But once we got them set up, and we had an auditor from BIA come in, and he looked at the books. He, said, looks good. So he said, we're going to restart all your programs.
So that was your first term, which would be in 1987 to 1990?
No. I served 3 different times
Okay.
as tribal chairman. And 3 times, they were usually 9 months. So I served a little over 5 years total. I served 2 years on my own, but the other 3 years were from me being called in to help the tribe get back on its feet.
In some of the notes, they talk about the work that you did related to the Milwaukee area,
Yeah.
in Menominee Valley and the Concordia campus area, and how you adjusted for that to be placed in trust land. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It happened in the fall where the general council made a motion to try to place the lands in Milwaukee into trust. But it was the Concordia property that they were talking about. I had a resolution that I went to. All the tribes in the state agreed. They signed off on it. And I took it to the National Congress of American Indians. And another, I don't know, about 340 tribes signed off on it. So I took them resolutions, and that's why it helped us to place the land down there, the trust. But, people think it was easy. It wasn't. I don't know how many times I'd be driving 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, coming or going. And during them days, I had a friend from Bad River when we used to have our glick meetings. That's the first thing he'd say. Oh, I found McDonald's. That's where we ate. 'Cause during those days, all the tribes, were almost broke. A lot of us were just barely surviving.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Pee Wee Taylor. He's the only one that called me by my nickname. Well, even today, the Holloway boys still call me that. And it was Hot Tea.
Hot tea?
Yeah. And, I grew up, hearing that.
You got to tell us more about hot tea and where that came from.
I don't know. I think it came from my brother, JC, because he couldn't say Hartford. So maybe that's where I'm thinking it came from. And the name Hartford, my aunt gave that to me. My Aunt Marie. There's something about my family. I'm the only surviving member, that branch of the family. When my brothers passed, my sister. And, I shake my head every once in a while, and shouldn't have been that way. I should have been the first and end up that way. Getting back to Concordia project, that's where board of directors of the Concordia Indian School were proposing that we have the bingo. We build a bingo hall on that site. We had a lot of fights over that. There was 5 ladies on the board, and then their attorney was Joe Polosnik. They're the ones that I used to talk with when we were trying to place the land into trust. But they were just as poor as I was. Like I said, it was a long, hard process. We had aldermen, mayor that were against it. And then there was all kind of rumors that were floating around that we were going to be building housing down there. We were going to be opening a liquor store, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
And there used to be signs there along that street where the Concordia property was, and that was just about the same time that Chippewa spearing experience was going on. So we had a lot of prejudice, down there. But we fought, and we finally convinced the BIA to help us place it into trust. And I'd like to say, we were the first that ever put land into trust in a metropolitan area. Years ago, Potawatomis did live in Milwaukee. We had villages down there. They had there's a couple signs every so often where the villages were. And where them domes are, there used to be a village there. And then that valley itself used to be, we used to pick wild rice years ago, quite a few years ago.
Really?
Yep. And when we placed it into trust, it was a lot of abandoned buildings. It was unsafe, to dig. So we never dug down there. When we drove pilings on, and we put the slabs on. That's the way we built down there. And first building down there was a pole building. Sat 2,500 people. And when it first started down there, I was money room manager. And worked my way up, and I became charge of the slots. But at that time, we didn't call it slots. We call them automatic pull tab machines. We had 200 of them. And I remember the first time carrying $100,000 in your hand, carrying it up, be counted. It was quite a feat. And then,
So that would have
yes,
been like 1991 era where it was bingo transitioning into
yeah,
casino.
yeah. But we weren't the first. There was a tribe out west that started slot machine craze. Then I believe it was Oneida started here in the States. So them 200 machines that we had, we expanded them to 600. We still call them automatic boot amp because they didn't spit out any money. They spit out a slip paper, how much you won. And like I said, I was the money room manager, so I'd bring them slips up to you, up to the window, and we'd convert slips into money. That's where the money room experience came from. Come to think of it, I followed all the money almost my entire career that I worked in as a casino manager. And I also worked 7 years as a security director. And that was, following the money. That's what you do when you're a security director. So if you ever look up on the ceilings in a casino, you'll see cameras. And that's what they're watching. And especially around the gaming pit, where they have poker, see them as they're watching the dealer. And then they're watching the players too.
Mhm.
And I think they used to call it the Blue Book. I'm not exactly sure. They had a list of all the known crooks that used to steal from the casinos. And we got the books from Nevada, where they had the casinos in the beginning. And we used to bring some of those people, well, we did bring them, Carter, and later on to Milwaukee. They taught classes, what to watch for.
So you saw both Carter Casino adjust from bingo to casino slot machines, and then again in Milwaukee where it was the bingo hall into the slot machines too.
Yep.
Yeah. And then all your work down there, that was amazing. It definitely does sound like it took a lot of work to get that campus switched over to trust land. So I think within your time frame, you did a lot of important milestones within the community.
Yeah, probably one of the biggest things that happened down there is, surrounding that property that we purchased down there. There used to be a slaughterhouse. That's where they slaughtered the pigs, cattle. It was right next to us. You could look out the window and you'd see them cows going up. Come to think of it, I worked in a slaughterhouse in Cudahy. And when we were down there, I used to be a ham cutoff man. That's when I was a scab. They were on strike, those people that worked at the slaughterhouse.
Mhm.
So they hired a bunch of, I wasn't making enough. That's why I took the position. Because in the beginning, like I said, it was pretty rough. But and in the beginning, too, as we had 80 some Potawatomis that went with us down there. First payday, we lost about 20. Second payday, we lost half of that. And within a month, there was only 10 of us. 10 of us Potawatomi left. All the other ones, you know, they quit.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably because it's the first time, that they had a job. And, you got to be on time. You got to, work for the 8 hours.
So in 2014, you served as vice chairman too?
Yeah.
And then 2016, like you said, you were general manager at the Milwaukee casino, but I know prior to that, you were general manager at Carter Casino as well.
Yep. I was a general manager at both places.
Mhm.
And I retired from both places 3 times. They called me back 3 times. You know, straighten them out again. You just have to, see what it says and follow it. That's it. And if you do that, money will start pouring in. I remember thinking, I wonder when we're going to win our first million. In Milwaukee, you know, a weekly event, $1 million on weekends, 2, 3. That's why we're getting per cap. Own a gold mine down there. There's a lot of people that were involved with doing that. We had people here on the res, that agreed with it. And we had people that didn't agree. Glad, we stuck it out. Look around, see what we have.
Mhm.
Now we could send our kids to college. When I was going to school, they didn't pay for that. You had to pay for it yourself. I got a couple degrees in business management, and then another business degree, associate's degree. And then, you never stop learning. Never. Seems like almost every day you learn something new. I remember my daughter when she was a little girl. We were watching TV. And there was some game shows coming on. And I'd answer. They were correct. She looked up at Daddy, how do you know? I said, Dad, your dad reads. And he knows. That's what I'm trying to, get her to do is read. Because that was one of the things growing up that I used to like to do. Well, I still like to read, to learn a lot.
I think that would be some really good advice to our youth if they were asking you for advice. Is there anything else besides making sure you get in those books and read and pay attention on what's being said in those books? Is there any other advice that you would give to our youth or future leadership?
I would say watch, you know, watch how things are being done. I was thinking I could do it better by doing this. And, watch some of the people that, you know, you admire, see how they act, see what they do, you know. And that's what I was telling my daughter. I said, everything you do, Mokum's gonna learn how to do it. Sure enough, he does the same thing.
Yep. With that little attitude too.
Yep. That's what, as I stopped there this morning and I asked, well, where's my baby? She's at school. I said, oh. Then I asked, well, how did she like school? Well, she don't like to wake up early, get ready. But she said once she gets there, she's okay.
Yep.
I said, well, how does she get along with the other kids? She said she gets along good. Well, that's good. Good to hear.
So when you were talking about making sure you're paying attention to the people that are doing things that you want to do, did you have any people in your life that were examples of that you can look up to, that you looked up to when you were younger?
Yeah, Billy D was probably one of the ones that I, admired. And there's Chimokman too, that, you know, we have to work with them. So some of those I took lessons from, and John Burke, because he was the one that funded us in the beginning. And he made his money back. Once we, bought him out, all that money became ours.
Mhm.
We did the right thing. But I admired him, kind of sneaky, but he didn't pick that up.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to make note of or talk about?
And just the way we're living now compared to us growing up, when I was growing up. And I was just thinking about it this morning, and I said, damn, I didn't think I'd live to be this old. Never. It's a good thing, I quit drinking, quit smoking, using other things. I'm glad I did. I have to pinch myself once in a while. Oh, I'm still here.
Oh, I'm alive.
Yeah. Oh, and like I said, you were asked about some of the people I admired. Dr. Barlow was one. He was a school 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 principal before he got involved in the BIA. He's a Crow, Montana. His secretary was from the same tribe as he is. That's what he told me one time. He said, Hartford, he said, you're always going to be the chairman. Always. Was one of the good compliments I got. Then there was another one. Said, my dad would have been so proud of you. Look what you've done. Oh, not from our own people. And that kind of pisses me off. We can't pat our own people on the back. Did a great job. I never heard that. Our own people.
Mhm.
From other people. It pisses me off sometimes. Can't say pissed off all the time. Crazy.
Well, we're definitely appreciative of all the milestones you've put in place for us for the Forest County Potawatomi community. I mean, you've served in a huge capacity for the tribe, so I want to thank you for that, and thank you for this interview and all the other future things that you're going to do for us.
Jimmy.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's a wrap.
From the fire, from the drum, we remember who we are. Through the smoke, through the sound, our heartbeat carries on. Stand strong, voices rise from the earth to the sky. Neshanabe, Neshanabe, Bode Wadami, Neshanabe.